My name is Violet Blue. I am an author. I'm the author of The Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy. I'm also a journalist on hacking and cybercrime.
So Violet, what's the biggest misconception about hacking?
Oh, there are many misconceptions about hacking, from who hackers are and what their motivations are to what hacking actually is. People think that one kind of hack is every kind of hack when there's actually all different kinds of hacks. And they also mistake things for other things. And also misreporting doesn't help either, which confuses and muddies the situation even further. So I think there's a lot of identity crisis going on with all different levels of hacking and hackers.
So you can talk about some of the examples of good hacking and bad hacking.
Well, so the concepts of black hat and white hat, these are concepts. So they're applied somewhat loosely. So it's really difficult to, in many ways, say, oh, this kind of hacking is bad hacking in some situations, because there are things that were illegal 5 years ago that aren't illegal now in hacking. So there are things that hackers have done ages ago that they were vilified for that now are no big deal and also even important tools that we use now. So the good versus bad is kind of a pretty charged conversation and a lot more nuanced. There are, of course, hackers who hack. Their motivation is to notify people and do sort of like a public service about the insecurities and the security dangers of the modern world. These are people who are hackers who want to hack to make things more secure, hack to make the world a better place, hack to save the world and things like that. On the other end of the spectrum, you have amoral hackers, hackers that operate in crime gangs and just don't care about their victims, hackers that just do it for the money, essentially, hackers that will buy and sell ODAs and exploits and things like that, and then things like Hacking Team, which are companies like them which sell surveillance and surveillance packages to despotic regimes around the world. So it's a big spectrum.
How close did Ubisoft get to nailing the culture in Watch Dogs 2 based on what you've seen?
Well, obviously the hacking culture is global and extremely diverse and very varied. But in terms of what Ubisoft did with Watch Dogs 2, it's kind of blowing my mind, because when I first saw the characters and I started seeing not just their stories, how they looked, how they interacted, how they moved through the world, I was like, I know these guys. Like, I know them. I know these are my friends. If you go to a convention, like an American hacking convention like DEF CON, this is the kind of people that you see there. And these are the characters that you see there. And so they really nailed it.
So if someone wanted to get into hacking, not to do anything bad, but just to learn the basics of it, to maybe work for the government or something, or maybe work for an anti-hacking corporation, where would they start?
There are a lot of different places to start depending on what you want to do. There are, of course, classes online where you can learn to code and things like that. You can also do things like go to your local hackerspace and see what kind of classes they offer there, because hackerspaces are these amazing sort of community gathering places for all different kinds of hackers, from hardware hackers to biohackers to software hackers. And they do workshops, they do classes, they do skill sharing, and they also do community, which is really great. You go there, you find community, and you can also talk to other people, meet other hackers, and find out where they're learning things as well.
So where do you see technology as far from a hacking standpoint 5-10 years from now? Do you see it in a better place, in a worse place?
It really depends on what's going to be happening with the buying and selling of big data on people. I think right now we're at a turning point because people are starting to become more aware of what's happening with the sales of their personal information. That their personal information is being snarfed up and packaged and resold, and it's information, A, that they don't know exists, and B, that they don't want people to necessarily know. And that's sort of reaching a tipping point. And it's something that hackers and hacking communities are very opposed to, that type of privacy violation, that type of security violation, especially on at-risk individuals. So I think that with the way especially Watch Dogs 2 sort of elevates this conversation and gets it into wider circles, I think this can shape the way that we see what happens with hacking, and technology within the next 20 years. Because I think that the more that we, as tiring and disempowering it is as to hear about the breach of the week, and what's happened with identity theft and things like that, this is raising awareness to the fact that these are broken systems. These are systems that needs to be fixed, and systems that are also being abused. So I think that we're going to see technology change either for the better in terms of better protections for people, more secure software, more secure apps and things like that, or we're going to see complete corporate dystopia takeover, like you read about in the novels, Yeah,
Facebook is already doing that. They gather a ton of information about you, then feed it back to other people as well as your friends and all that stuff. People don't even realize that.
Exactly. I think what was the joke that Facebook takes its business plan from dystopian novels, you know? It really feels like that.
And people, like, I just downloaded an app on my phone 2 days ago, and it was like a free game, but the game wanted access to my contacts and my camera for some weird reason. I'm like, well, why does it need access to my camera? It's just a free-to-play game that I just swipe.
Right. And so the thing is, right, so like the iPhone came out in 2007 and people were like, ooh, apps, and everyone was downloading apps and all of these things. And those of us who know about the security of things like this and what information is being moved around about you, were like, why are people just clicking the terms of service and agreeing to these things? Like, don't they realize these cameras are going through their contact, or these apps are going through their contacts and using their cameras and recording them without their permission and things like that. So you asking that question now is huge, because people weren't asking that 10 years ago, 9 years ago. So it's pretty interesting, but it's also such a violation, right?
It sounds a lot like back in college they said don't take a parasite class because you never want to go outside. And if I took a hacking class, it sounds like I would never want to use another electronic device online.
Well, you could think about it that way. You know, like the question is, should we be afraid? Is this going to make me paranoid? You know, is this going to make me just want to go live in a cave somewhere? And I don't think so. I think that, yes, it's scary, and yes, fear is definitely something that we experience when we realize just how insecure a lot of this stuff is, and, you know, how hard it is to control our data and our information. But the fear just tells us what the threat is, right? And then we figure out what the threats are, we figure out how we're vulnerable, we figure out ways that we can shore ourselves up and make ourselves more secure. So I see this leading to empowerment. And that's actually a lot of what I see in Watchdogs too, where they take this sort of like, Marcus is in this helpless state, he's been wrongly profiled, you know, and this is something that is happening now. This is the sort of like bad data aggregation and bad algorithms that are, you know, getting people wrongly targeted for things. And it would make a lot of us just feel helpless and not know what to do, but instead we see this narrative of a different way this could play out, and we get to actually be in the driver's seat for that. So I find something like that, going from the, oh no, I would never want to go outside, this is super scary, to something like Watchdogs where it's like, oh wait, here's this whole other world that exists, how can I use it to protect myself and the people that I care about? So.
And the last question is, what can someone do? What can a basic average Joe do to protect himself from getting hacked?
There are a lot of things, a lot of really simple things, like use a password manager. That is huge, and a password manager will help you do a lot of things that will help you be secure. So if your data gets, you know, breached by a company or something like that, you'll be able to go and change your passwords and, you know, find all the things that are connected to all the passwords that you use and stuff like that. Also just using ad blockers, like uBlock Origin on your browsers, because what's happening now, there's the big new trend is something called malvertising, which is malicious advertising. So it's ads on sites that you would normally trust, like Forbes and things like that, you know? And people are pushing malicious code and malware and things through ads. And if you just use an ad blocker, that whole area attack is gone. It's sealed off. So a lot of simple, fun stuff you can do.
What about VPNs?
VPNs, I am the biggest fan in the world of VPNs. If everyone should use a VPN, I'm super mad at companies that block people from using VPNs, because they are just absolutely the first line of security for any use of open Wi-Fi whatsoever. So yeah, VPNs all the way.
And Violet, you've written 2 books. Talk about those books and where people can find them.
Well, my most recent book is The Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy. And The Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy is essentially the culmination of my reaction to learning all of this stuff. So, you know, going to hacker conferences, reporting on hacker conferences, and the ways that I've needed to protect myself, protect my sources, and protect all of my data and my files. Not only doing that, but also just moving through the world as a normal person, and also as a girl, because we're targeted more online. I realized that there was just no guide for doing what I was doing to protect myself, and that needed to be there. I was also learning a lot of tricks from hackers, nothing super technical, but just some sort of like really simple little tricks and things that you could do that most other people weren't doing. And so I put it all into that book, and also helped explain what's going on with data sales, give people templates for dealing with stuff like this, how to get their names taken off those sites and things like that. So that book is my swan song, and I hope that everybody can read it, because it's got a lot of stuff to help protect you from this crazy data madness that's happening.